Good night. I know to my friends in America, it's Memorial Day, and we are going through something that we in our generation or anyone alive has ever faced. I used to go to, when I worked at the OAS in Washington, D.C., around 97 when I moved I was going to college, I used to go to Arlington Cemetery to relax, to think, meditate. And it is a unique place in the U.S. And I've learned a great deal about this particular day, Memorial Day. The day that everyone in America is thankful for the sacrifice of all that came before us. And I'm in Brazil. Just yesterday, President Trump prohibited flights from Brazil. And he's absolutely correct. And this is all a global failure. Unfortunately, for many, many years, the world has been divided. But we have reached a tipping point. Essentially, the past few years, we have witnessed more and more division. I have friends who are Democrats and Republicans, and I couldn't go out with them together. And when I look at Arlington, and I remember, and I've witnessed, one or two ceremonies of fallen soldiers, we're all the same. In the end of the day, we are going to go there. And it is somewhat poetic to see the crosses, the Stars of David, side by side. Because those men and women fought for an ideal that is beyond our generation. It's beyond one individual person. And that cemetery was inaugurated, I took the tour, in the middle of a civil war. So the American democracy, the experiment of American democracy, as the founding fathers and as a political scientist, I love that, is an ongoing process. It's not finished. We have the obligation to keep doing, to keep the checks and balances and have a dialogue. I've worked in Washington, and people, even the senators and congressmen, they had a dialogue that has been lost. I am witnessing the same thing in Brazil. I voted for President Bolsonaro. I actually believe he's a good man. But since he took office, people have been attacking him for good things and for bad things. And what I have to say to you today, to the world, because this is our war. If people feel more comfortable thinking it's a war against a virus, against an alien virus, that's okay. But this is a war against ourselves, against the ego and our, selfishness. We have a few solutions, but humanity is not the dominant species for not looking at reality. And I know everybody is panicking. A lot of people are afraid. I am as well, but I felt so many times in my life, I've had my dark days. So I'm kind of used to it. And that's why I'm trying to share something. I've lost my father when I was young. I didn't suffer financially. I did, but not in the sense that many people in Brazil suffer. And I am worried about the minorities in the US, in Brazil, everywhere in Africa. But you know what? They have been dealing with suffering for a long time. I've talked to friends that never had crisis in their life, and they're desperate. And those people are going to have a tougher time to kind of regain control. Because essentially, we never had control. It is the best time for us to be alive. Greatest economy, not for everyone, but greatest technology. And I am a big believer that together we can accomplish anything. In 1961, Kennedy said that we wanted to go to the moon. And we did. It is written into the U.S. Constitution that all men are created equal. We're far from that. But it's written. It's a first step. In 1863, Lincoln was given the Gettysburg Address about if that nation would live, if that ideal that a nation conceived under liberty would prevail. And that war is over. Funny, but 1963 in Washington, Dr. King was talking about the same liberty, the same rights that a lot of us still don't have around the world. So I am very confident that this is the best time to be alive because we have the tools, and most importantly, we have gone through things in the past. I am religious. My mom says that God has always a plan, and I believe the plan is for us to understand that we have to work together. So President Trump is your president. I don't vote in America, but I voted for Bolsonaro. So I'm inviting you, all of you, to join a conversation, to come up with solutions, because we don't need to point out what's not working. A parrot can do that. We need to offer solutions. And I have something to say about my country, a country that has copied the US system. Now we have copied, when we have the Republic, the US institutions. And again, it is a work in progress for you and for us. But one thing that I understand, and I learned this, a year, 2 years ago, we have to have a dialogue. And that is what is missing. There is a lot of bias on both sides. I mean, every single question, every single statement is always an attack. To my president, to your president. And nobody, not even I or you, will respond well to being attacked all the time. I honestly learned another thing. Kevin Hart has that on his special, the comedian. But I've learned that in the past because the times I, screw up, let's keep it PG-13, I didn't know that, And the more you screw up, the more confused you get. So we need to hold everyone's hand and join together. So I ask you, and I ask everybody, to just start a dialogue. Just always assume the other side has good intentions. I can see things from a perspective of the US. I've lived for many years. I went to school. I understand. But I always assume that the other side has good intentions. We always have democracy, and democracy is, comes election day, we can vote as our feeling. If we don't like something, that's the whole thing about democracy. My president, I voted for him. I support him. I don't want to criticize. I want to offer solutions, because there are millions of people criticizing, and there's millions of people just saying yes to whatever he says. And a good friend, a real supporter, is someone who will tell you what you need to listen, what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And Brazil is in a very bad position right now. But we will prevail because we have gone through crisis. When I was young, there was a crisis every week, economic crisis. And the reason we need the help of the world is because we don't have the money. We don't have the fiscal responsibility for the past 20 years. I'm an economist, sorry for the jargon. But we have had 20, 30 years of failed policies. Policies that have the background of helping the poor, but didn't. Our economy was improving. And I do believe that we have a big asset. And I'm not talking about soybeans or minerals, about our people. I've never seen around, and I've traveled around the world, people that work, so much. They're hardworking people. Not only that, they're creative. So we need to bring everyone, right, left, whatever. Everybody. We are on this together. This is a war for a future, and perhaps this is just preparing us for a next war or for a next catastrophe. Because one thing that is clear is that we were not prepared. Not because nobody said we need it. Bill Gates has put a lot of his own money into vaccines, surveillance. President Obama has done created some safety nets, Obamacare, but globally we are not prepared. So we have to be thankful. And after everything's over, we need to sit down as friends and do what it needs to be, whatever we need to do to prevent a next catastrophe, but not blaming each other, not blaming the other side. We can clearly see countries that succeed and countries that have failed. So we have to change tactics. When Churchill was battling the Nazis, he didn't start like negotiating with Nazis. He said in the parliament that he could not negotiate with Hitler, and we cannot negotiate with the virus. More importantly, we cannot negotiate with the powder. We cannot say just, will the cannon kill us? Yes, it will. It's the same thing with the virus. And again, there's a lot of misconception. This is an economic crisis caused by a healthcare crisis. So we have to reopen the economies. Brazil cannot take much longer. But we have to do it in a way that is safe, in a way that we can protect everyone, and especially the economy. So this has to be a global effort. I have been for the past 3 months contacting everybody I know, people that I don't know, and they have been responding. But we need to take this public. We need to take this effort to the world, not just to economists or scientists or doctors, because we need to talk about what is the reality. So on this Memorial Day that's ending in America, that generation had to fight. They died. We just have to wear a mask. And the reason we can do that, and the reason we can even dispute wearing or not a mask, is because all those millions of people, since the Mayflower arrived in New England, or in the US, because they fought for our rights to have our own way of life, not to have a king, not to be persecuted with no due process. And that's why we have to wear a mask. That's why we have to help the president, and we have to contribute, not attack. I understand every side has their own opinions, but we have a common enemy, so it should be easier. We have done this in the past, and we can do it again. And afterwards, we can all come together and really create a world that I honestly believe is going to be a beautiful world. A world that Jesus dreamed 2,000 years ago, where we're just going to help our neighbors. That, it is written into the Constitution, even though those men had slaves, but they wrote that every man is endowed by the Creator. And that's something beautiful. We need to fight. We have fought for that. We keep fighting for that ideal. And I don't know if I'm going to see it, or if you're going to see it, but someone will. And when you go to Arlington, remember all those men and women fought for an ideal, not for a country. There's the eternal flame that is a resting place from JFK. His brother, I think, is on the side as well. All these people, they died all that time. How would they look at us? Lincoln, the beautiful memorial. When Dr. King was, having the I Have a Dream speech. Those men are the reason we're here. And so many others. The many heroes, the unknown heroes. So please, let's stop the fight. Let's just fight the enemy. And the enemy is one. It's called coronavirus. Not Trump. Not Biden. Not your neighbor. And don't fight with your neighbor if he or she does not wear a mask. Do it. Do it selfishly. Wear your mask. Make him or her be a little bit uncomfortable that he's the only one not wearing. And it's going to be a great lesson if we are ever invaded by aliens. Because if we are, we would not be in a good shape. Because we cannot even agree with science. Imagine an alien that we don't know how he works. So on this day, for those thousands of men and women that are laid down on that beautiful hill near Washington, D.C., a city that Allah, has taught us so much. please join this conversation. Not a debate, a conversation. Everybody wants to survive. Everybody's afraid, but we need to do this together. I ask you and just join the conversation. We all need each other. Thank you, and happy Memorial Day.
Dreams that you dream of, dreams really do come true. Ooh, someday you wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind. Be where trouble melts like lemon drops, high above the chimney top. That's where